Now that we've learned about demand, let's turn our attention to supply. First, let's remember that earlier I mentioned that when we talk about demand, we're always referring to buyers, and when we talk about supply, we're referring to the sellers. And so as we talk about supply today, remember to look at things through the eyes of a seller of a product, not the buyer of a product. The definition of supply is the quantity sellers are willing and able to purchase or sell at various prices. Now, just like we're willing to buy different amounts of products depending on the price, sellers are willing to make different amounts of a product depending on the price that they can charge. Let's see what I mean by this. Look at the supply schedule on the left. Now, I want you to kind of notice a pattern that you might see. Let's imagine this is the supply schedule for mowing lawns. And you just realize you need to make some extra money to go to homecoming or prom or something that's coming up. So you go around your neighborhood and you ask people if they would let you mow their lawn for money. Well, what if they offered you $15? Well, $15 isn't a lot. Remember, it's going to cost you some money to put gas in the lawnmower. You're going to have to give up time with your friends and playing video games. So you decide that you're only willing to mow 2 lawns at that price. And so you'll do 2 lawns and that's it for the week. At $30, if instead you went around and people offered you $30 to mow their lawn, perhaps you would choose to mow 6 lawns. Give up a few video games, give up some time with your friends, because for $30 you actually feel like you're making some good money. If they offered you $50 a lawn, well, now maybe it'd be worth it to invest in a riding lawnmower. Now maybe it'd be worth it to hire your little brother to help you mow the lawns. Well, whatever its incentive, the greater amount of money allows you to do, you're probably going to want to mow more lawns. Maybe you'll want to mow 10 lawns. At $60, maybe 16 lawns. And it will continue going up as the price went up as well. Now, the pattern that you're seeing is that as price is increasing, the quantity supplied is increasing as well. Just like a demand line, we can take these prices and quantities and we can transfer them to a graph, to points on a graph. And this is going to create our supply line. Let's look at just a simplified supply line. A supply line will always be upsloping. It will always be a positive slope. And we can see it's upsloping. As the price is increasing, the quantity is increasing as well. The basic law of supply says, as price goes up, quantity supplied goes up as well. So why is it that as price goes up, the quantity that businesses are willing and able to supply goes up as well? Here's a video that kind of helps explain the reason.
Good evening and welcome to a special hour of 2020. Tonight, myths, lies, and downright stupidity. We investigate 10 things about your love life, your health, and your money. It turns out that much of what we think we know is wrong. For example, myth number 10. We start there. The world is running out of oil. Now, how can that be a myth? Everyone knows that's true, isn't it?
Go organic for Earth Day.
At Earth Day events last month, people were quick to tell us we're running out of oil.
It's running out quickly. We're going to run out really soon.
It's an unrenewable resource. It's running out
A lot sooner than you think.
But what people don't know is that there's a vast supply of oil just 500 miles north in Canada.
The tar sands of Alberta alone contain enough hydrocarbon to fuel the entire planet for over 100 years.
What's he talking about? This is what the Canadian tar sands looks like. It's a Florida-sized patch of this disgusting stuff. Sand and rock mixed with oil. Lots of it.
We're talking trillions of barrels, the whole planet from Alberta for about a century.
Peter Huber, co-author of The Bottomless Well, says people think we're running out of oil because we're running out of cheap oil, the kind that's found in the Middle East, already liquid, clean, and ready to refine.
It's very cheap to get that oil out of the ground, so of course that's where people go first.
They can pull it out of the ground for $5 a barrel.
Less.
That was once true in America, as Jimmy Stewart celebrated in the movie Thunder Bay. It costs 3 times as much to get oil out of these tar sands because they have to add hot water to the sand to separate the oil. But now that oil's expensive and likely to stay that way, companies find it profitable to do this. Clive Mather, who runs Shell.
Okay, so that last sentence he said, that now that oil is more expensive, it's now profitable to do this. The reason why, as price goes up, quantity supply goes up, is because as the prices go up, it is more profitable. It is profitable to do things that wouldn't be profitable otherwise. You can expand your factory. You can hire more workers to increase the supply. There's a lot of things you can do in order when the price is higher. In addition, there's that extra incentive. As the price goes up, you're going to make a greater profit, and so there's a greater incentive to make more of the product.
In Canada says.
Now, just like demand, there are 2 possible changes to supply. The first possible change is a quantity supply change. This is caused by a change in price, and it causes movement along the curve. Well, what would that look like? Here's our quantity supply change graph. Now, notice that at P1, we can follow that out by the dotted lines to our supply line, and then we can follow it down from there to Q1, and we can see the quantity that will be supplied at a certain price. That is a quantity supply. When price changes, if the price drops to a smaller amount, then you'll notice if you look at P2, follow that out to the line, and then follow it down, that brings us to quantity 2. Which is greater, Q1 or Q2? Q1 is greater. And so as price has decreased, the quantity supplied has decreased as well. We have moved from one point on our supply line to a different point in our supply line. Notice we have not needed to change our supply line. The supply line represents all of the supply of a product, all the quantities that producers are willing to supply at all the prices. We haven't had to change that, and so supply has not changed. Quantity supply has changed. The second kind of change is a supply change. This is a change in anything else that changes the amount sellers are willing to supply. In this case, the entire curve shifts. This is going to look something like this. Notice that at each of the old prices, the quantities have shifted to the left, and the supply line has moved to the left. This is going to be caused, again, by anything else that changes how much is supplied, except for price. Well, what is it that can cause supply to decrease like this, to shift to the left? Well, just like with our demand, I have another acronym. This time it's not nearly as good. It's GET-PIN. Sorry, I wish I had something better. That's the best I could do. Now, GET-PIN stands for the 6 different things that might shift our supply line left or right. The first one is government regulations. Government regulations, including regulations, safety regulations, environmental regulations, taxes, are all things that might affect the supply of a product. The more government regulations, the lower the supply will be of the product, because businesses will have to use some of their resources complying with government regulation rather than making their product. There is an exception, though, and that is a subsidy. A subsidy is money that is granted by a government to a person or group to support whatever they're producing that's regarded as being in the public interest. This is used heavily in the agricultural sector. And often a corn farmer, for example, may be paid by the government a subsidy to plant their corn. They're given this money, and so when that happens, they are obviously going to grow more corn because they're being given additional money to do it. E in our acronym stands for expectations. Just like we have expectations, so do businesses. When they expect that prices might fall in the future, for example, they might raise their supply now to take advantage of the higher prices now, and vice versa. Often they'll base their expectations on what they think the economy is going to be like in the future as well. T is technology. Technology will increase the productivity of a company and will allow them to increase supply without increasing their prices. And so we're going to see that prices will end up falling because that supply line is going to move to the right. P stands for the prices of other goods that could be produced. Let's go back to the idea of a corn farmer. Let's say you're a corn farmer and the price of corn is the same as it's always been. However, the price of wheat has started skyrocketing. The price of wheat is going way above the price of corn. Well, you're a farmer. You can plant corn or wheat in your fields. Might you switch from producing corn to producing wheat because wheat prices are going up? Yeah. And so the supply of corn is going to decrease because people are leaving the corn business and going to the wheat business. I stands for input cost or resource cost. When the cost of making your product goes up, when the cost of land, labor, capital increase, businesses are going to reduce their supply. When those prices decrease, businesses are going to increase their supply. N stands for number of sellers. This is somewhat obvious. If we have more businesses selling a product, there is more of the product out there. If there are less businesses selling the product, there is less of the product out there. And so that will change supply. If any of these get pin factors change, it is going to cause us to change the supply line. It's going to have to shift to the left, which would be less, or to the right, which would be more. Notice none of these instances show the price of the product changing. They show something else changing that changes how much the businesses want to supply.